We continue now at the top of Daf Kuf Amud Aleph in Mesechet Kesubos. This is Kesubos Daf 100a. On the previous Amud, the Mishnah said that let's say you have a court that is evaluating a piece of land for sale, so even if they make a mistake, as long as the mistake in the evaluation is less than 1/6, so the sale is still going to be valid. Now, along the same lines, we said earlier, let's say you have a situation of a widow who's selling a piece of land of her late husband's estate. It really belongs to the orphans, but she's selling it in order to pay herself for ksuba. So there, if she makes even the smallest mistake, we say that the sale is not valid. And so the Gemara asked on the previous summit, well, what about a regular shliach? Is a shliach considered like a court, or is a shliach considered like an almana? And the Gemara says, Rava Amar, Rav Nachman. Rava says that Rav Nachman says, Shliach kedayonin. A shliach is the same thing as a court. It's like a third party evaluating, and therefore, again, it can make a mistake even to a 6. It's still going to be okay. Rav Shmuel bar Bisna Amar Rav Nachman, and Rav Shmuel bar Bisna says that Rav Nachman says, Ka'almana, no, a shliach is like an almana. Even the smallest mistake will void the sale. Rava Amar Rav Nachman shliach kedayonin. Rava says that Rav Nachman says a shliach is like the court, like the judges. Ma dayonin lav lididhu. Just like the dayonim, they're not evaluating it for themselves. They're like a third party. Av shliach nami lav lididei. So when it comes to a shliach, it's not his own interest over here. Lafuke almana de lidida, and that's different than an almana where she's really doing it for herself. She's selling the property in order that she is going to collect her ksuba payment. Rav Shmuel bar Bisna Amar Rav Nachman, and Rav Shmuel bar Bisna says that Rav Nachman says Ka'almana, a shliach is like an almana. Ma almana yechida, just like an almana is one person, is an individual. Av shliach yochid, so to a shliach is an individual. La'afuke bezdin de rabbim ninu. That's different than bezdin, which is a rabbim, which is more than one person. V'hilchasa, and the Gemara says the halach is shliach ka'almana. A shliach is treated the same as an almana. Even a small mistake will void the sale. And the Gemara asks, what's the difference from the following Mishnah? The Mishnah says, let's say a person says to a shliach, go and take off truma on my behalf. Torim kedas bal habayis. So he takes off truma according to the intentions, the standard intentions of the bal habayis, meaning people take off truma. Some people are more generous, they give a 40th. Some people are average, they give a 50th. Some people are less generous, they give a 60th. So he has to evaluate according to what the bal habayis would normally give. Now, if he doesn't know what the bal habayis would give, so he should do it like the average person. Echad mechamisha, meaning 1/50th. Piches asara, hosef asara. If he goes down a 10th or adds a 10th, truma, so truma, it's still going to be good truma. So here you have a situation where he is a shliach, and we're saying over here that even though he's making a mistake, it's still going to be valid. And the Gemara answers, Hasam over there, Kevan di'iko de Torim be'ein ra, since there are people who do it and they're not so generous, ve'iko de Torim be'ein yaf, and there are those who do it are more generous, so therefore it's going to be effective. Amarle lahachi amadetich. He could say, this is how I estimated you would give. Aval hacha ta'usahu. But over here, where we're talking about making an actual mistake in an evaluation, Amarle lo ibayah lach lemiti. We say to the person, you should not have made a mistake. Amar Rav Huna bar Chanina, Amar Rav Nachman. Rav Huna bar Chanina says that Rav Nachman says, Halacha kedivrei chachamim. The halacha is like the chachamim, meaning when it comes to the court evaluating this piece of land for sale, they make a mistake up to a 6th, it's okay, but more than that is not going to be okay. Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel in the Mishnah, he said, no, we say this idea of makoach bezdin yafe, that even a larger mistake is going to be okay. And so that's what the Gemara asks. Does Rav Nachman really not hold of the concept of makoach bezdin yafe? But Rav Nachman said that Shmuel said, and let's say you have orphans and they want to divide up the property of their late father. So Bezin will appoint someone, a caretaker over the property for them. And then he selects for them and he gives them each an appropriate portion. And higdilu yicholim limchos, and then it says when they get older, so they can protest and then they can redivide the property. But Rav Nachman didei, but Rav Nachman himself says, meaning not quoting Shmuel, but he says himself, higdilu ein yicholim limchos. When they get older, they're not able to protest. Imkein makoach bezin yafa, because otherwise, what is the strength of the court? The court went ahead over here and divided the property. We have to take the court's division seriously. We have to give the court strength, and therefore Rav Nachman does apply the idea of makoach bezin yafa. So therefore, why is he paskening like the Chachamim? He should pasken like Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel. And the Gemara says, lo kash, it's not difficult. Hadato, hadaloto. It depends whether they make a mistake or they don't make a mistake. If you're talking about a situation where they make a mistake, so we follow the Chachamim. The Bezin makes a mistake, we don't say makoach Bezin yafe. But if there's no mistake, like the case of the Yisomim, so in such a situation, there we do apply the idea of makoach Bezin yafe. But the Gemara says, 1 second, idalo to, if they made no error over here, but ma'yachol limcho, so what are they even protesting about? It says that when they get older, they're able to protest according to Rav Nachman. So what do you mean they're able to or they're not able to protest rather, according to Rav Nachman, and again, according to Rav Nachman and Shmuel, they are able to protest, but if there's no mistake, so what are they even protesting? And the Gemara says, beruchos, no, they're just protesting in terms of what area, what location, what boundary that property had, because maybe the person, the Yassim says, well, I wanted a property that borders my other property, it's more convenient for me, so that already is a potential protest, even in a situation where there is no mistake. And the Gemara continues, Ki Aser Rav Dimi Omar, when Rav Dimi came, he said, Ma'isa v'Aser Rebbe kedivrei Chachamim, that there was an incident, and Rebbe followed the Chachamim, meaning we follow 1/6. So Amar Lefan of Prata ben Oshel, Rebbe Elazar ben Prata ben Oshel, Rebbe Prata Hagadol. So in front of him said Prata, who was the son of Rebbe Elazar ben Prata, who was the grandson of Rebbe Prata Hagadol. He said back, how could you paskin like the Chachamim? Because him kain makoach bezin yafa. Because if so, then what really is the strength of the court? The court should have the ability to make even larger errors in that regard. The Rebbe ended up retracting and saying we don't follow the Chachamim. Rav Dimi masni hachi. Now what we just said above, that's how Rav Dimi understood the story with Rebbe, and he taught the story with Rebbe. But Rav Safra masni hachi. But Rav Safra, he taught it as follows, a slightly different version of the story. Ma'isa ubikesh Rebbe lasos kedivrei Chachamim. It's not that Rebbe actually paskin like the Chachamim. He sought to paskin like the Chachamim. Amar lefana Prata ben Oshel Rebbe Elazar ben Prata ben Oshel Rebbe Prata Hagadol. So in front of him said Prata, who was the son of Rebbe Elazar ben Prata, the grandson of Rebbe Prata Hagadol. He said, Im kain makoach bezin yafe. If you're going to paskin like the Chachamim, so what's the strength of bezin already? So lo asa Rebbe esamaisa. So therefore Rebbe did not actually paskin like the Chachamim. The difference in the versions of the stories is that in the first version Rebbe paskin and then went back on what he paskin. In the second version of the story, Rav Safra's version of the story, Rebbe wanted to paskin and then decided not to. And the Gemara says, Leima b'ha kamiflagi. Let's say the two versions of the story argue as follows. Mar savar ta b'dvar mishnah chozer. The first version of the story holds that if somebody makes a mistake in a dvar mishnah, this is considered an issue that's discussed in the mishnah, so then you have to retract. So that's the first version of the story where Rebbe retracted his actual ruling. Umar savar eino chozer. The other one says, no, you wouldn't retract the ruling once it's already given. Therefore, the proper version of the story, according to Rav Safra, was that he wanted to issue the ruling, and then he decided not to. And the Gemara says, lo, no, the kuli alma tabid var mishnah chozer. It could be everybody agrees that if you make a mistake in something that's a mishnah, you would retract. Even the second version of the story says theoretically you can retract. Umar savar hachiyav ma'is, umar savar hachiyav ma'is. So there's two versions. One master holds the incident went in the following method, the following manner, and the other one of Safra, he said the story was slightly different. Hachiyav ma'is. This was a story. It was just a question what happened, but it could be that everybody agrees tabid var mishnah is chozer. And the Gemara continues, Amar Rav Yosef. Rav Yosef says, Armalta dezvina achrayus ayasmi. Let's say you have a widow and she sells the property. Again, she's selling the property to collect her ksuba, but it's really the property of the Yisomim. So when you make a sale, there's a certain guarantee to the buyer. Let's say it gets taken away by somebody, you're going to reimburse him. So the achrayus, the guarantee is upon the Yisomim. They're the real owners of the land, and they're going to have to reimburse anybody, any lokeach, when the land gets taken away from that lokeach. They're providing the guarantee. And similarly, when the court sells, the guarantee is upon the Yisomim. And the Gemara says, Pshita, isn't that obvious? It's the Yisomim's land. Of course, they're the ones that have to back up the sale and provide the guarantee. And the Gemara says, Almona lo itzrichale. You're right. When it comes to the widow selling, we don't even need to say it. It's obvious that the Yisomim are backing up and guaranteeing the sale. Ki itzdarech le beidina. But the chiddush is, when it comes to the court selling, there it's a chiddush already to say that the Yisomim are the ones providing the guarantee. Because ma'u detema, what might you have said? And we'll continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Kuf Amid Beis.